Hey there, Hannah. How you doing?
Hi, good. How are you? Lovely to see you again.
You too. Thank you for joining us. Just a quick little intro for our members about yourself. I know a lot of our members already know you, but just a little reminder to those who might recognize your face or not quite sure what you do. Remind us.
So I'm a naturopath. So naturopath, herbalist, nutritionist, and wellness people, I guess. So what I do is I work with mainly women, but I do see men as well sometimes. And I work in the field of all sorts of different sort of health conditions. So I do focus a lot on women's health, so hormones, fertility, those kinds of things, but also just getting into immune health and gut health, and mental health is an area that I really support a lot of people in as well. And I find that, um, you know, people are really complex, and it's never just like one thing. There's a whole raft of things that get joined together, and that's why I like working as a naturopath. So kind
Great.
of do a bit
What
of
a great
everything.
time. What a great time to offer these services because like mental health and gut stuff and immune stuff, I'm sure that's coming up a lot for you at the moment. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. And normally I'm on like face to face with my clients, but I'm online and I'm doing this. And I was just thinking, like, doing these videos through COVID, and I just like to say it's going to be a great record because of
Yeah.
like how big my hair is getting every week the longer we're in lockdown. So thank you that we're going to have a record of this.
We'll look back on it with fond memories, no doubt. All right, let's move into our question.
It's a really big question, and I it's not the first time that I've heard people ask this. And health is really complicated. So I get, my patients are people who come to me often where they feel like there's no other help, you know. And it sounds like what your lovely woman has said, there's no other option. I call a little bit of BS on that, because I always say there's always another way around. And I think that it's just a matter of reframing health and reframing understanding how bodies work and feel is actually part of that. And so I guess when a woman such as your lovely, lovely lady goes to the doctor and the doctor just says, oh, you have this, now just go and lose weight, right? This is something that we hear time and time again. And you and I have talked about this so much, in lots of different ways. And I guess it's not good enough. It's not good enough that women get told that without actually understanding who that woman is. To talk to a woman about her body, it needs to be done in a way of respect and mutual understanding.
What a
And
great
it,
way to put it. Yeah.
and it needs to be done where the woman is allowing you to say that. And I think that that's really, really part of it. And yes, when you're a doctor, I appreciate the work that they do. They have 10, 15 minutes. They don't have time to go through the nitty gritty of a lot of really detailed things. Plus, they're not trained dietitians or nutritionists. They don't understand the role of food or life or behaviors when it comes to things. It's not their job to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess it comes into that confusing thing where they go, well, that must be the reason why. And there's a lot of judgment and blame that people walk out of those consults with. And I don't just think that that's something that's isolated to a doctor's clinic. I think that happens in a lot of settings, not just medical settings, but social settings as well. So it's this whole stigma, this weight stigma, that drives people back and away from facing their health conditions. And I think that is, it's a real shame. Like, we know that weight stigma from medical professionals leads to really, really negative health outcomes.
Yeah.
It leads to ignoring appointments, missing appointments, not following up on pathology, not following up on testing to monitor how things are changing.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely raises stress levels and raises cortisol levels, and therefore raises insulin levels.
Mm-hmm.
It increases anxiety and depression. Weight stigma leads to harmful behaviors as well. So that terminology, it actually needs to change. And the problem I find, and this is gets deep into philosophy of working in women's health that I get really, really passionate about, is that you expect better when you go to a medical professional, that they will actually understand and empathize with where you're at. But what actually ends up happening is that you trust them, because you're sitting there and there's a a power relationship that happens. This is the person I'm asking for help. What they're going to tell me is the truth, and therefore I believe it. And they don't use the right terminology. They don't ask how that person is, or they don't understand the history or the context of who that person is in that body. And so it just leads me to like really be really passionate about the fact, like when a woman goes to a doctor or a health professional, you have to be your own advocate. You have to advocate so much for what you feel is the right behavior. And when someone says stuff to you that doesn't feel right, whether a doctor, a personal trainer, you know, a postman, whoever it is, you have to have the confidence to say, no, sorry, can we stop for a minute and look at this a different way? And I just think I see that working in women's health when it comes to women's experience of pain, women's experiences of their hormones, women's experience of mental health, postpartum mothers. It's this dismissal of just go and do this and you'll be fine. Yeah, go and lose weight, you'll be fine. Just buck up and you'll be fine. Or just take a Panadol and you'll be fine. And it's really not good enough. So it gets me really like these, when I hear these stories, I feel like it breaks my heart that you can see that this woman is obviously feels like there's no other option for her. And I just want to say that there is. There always is. And unfortunately, in this, you know, modern world we live in, we have to learn how to advocate for that. Now, it becomes complex when someone who is going to a doctor that may have a history of disordered eating, that feels uncomfortable about talking about her body anyway, the idea of having to advocate for the fact of something different becomes really challenging. And that's why, you know, the work that you do and the women that you introduce your women to are really important, because they do understand the sensitivities of that. And I think that that's really important. And the fact that you need that team. So this woman wants to support her mental health through this health condition that she's been diagnosed with. And I think that is, for me, like the crux of like the work that I love to do, because most of the people that I see in my clinic, they don't feel good about the fact that they are unwell or that they're sick or they're stressed. You know, like mental health is just as important as physical health, and being able to nurture that through whatever that person is experiencing is really important.
I mean, what you're bringing up to me, what is really clear to me is, you know, speaking up for yourself and recognizing how tough that can be when you're somebody who is potentially, and, you know, I guess we're making a few assumptions here because we don't know this person's entire story, but just based on this question and some experiences that I've had chatting and knowing people have been through stuff similar, that advocating for yourself can be so challenging and so tough and so scary. And so, yeah, you're bringing light to that, which I think is a really important factor in all of this.
Look, I think when I'm working with women who are like exploring intuitive eating, it's always this point is the sticky point for them, like always. It's when they're into the idea of understanding fullness, they're into the understanding of not looking at restriction as a negative thing, and they can see it play out. There's this awakening that you see when women understand this, that goes, oh yeah, I can change my behaviors and I feel better, right? And it's when they're faced with this medical approach to health that it stumbles, right? You know, women, postmenopausal women or menopausal women, and they're like, well, I get told that if I have weight around my middle, then I'm going to get heart disease. And I'm like, well, lots of people get heart disease in all sorts of different body shapes and sizes. And lots of people, you know, get high cholesterol in lots of different shapes and sizes. And lots of people get diabetes in all sorts of different shapes and sizes. And I think it's really important to understand that. And the treatments, right, like why are they different for different people? Like I work with women with PCOS. I see women in larger bodies that have PCOS. I see women in smaller bodies that have PCOS. Is it about the weight? You know, like, can it be if it, you know, like it's, and it just drives me crazy because, you know, it's like when women with classic PCOS who are in smaller bodies go to doctors, they get dismissed And the doctors say, oh, no, you you couldn't possibly have PCOS. And the women in larger bodies who don't have PCOS, they're like, well, of course you have it. And they're like, no, I don't have it. It's this real like judgment of stigma that's just not, it's this
This is an assumption based purely on like this, how somebody looks from the outside without digging further and actually looking at what is going on for this individual. Yeah.
Exactly. And it drives me crazy. I mean, the stories of like women's battling in medical situations that I hear, like it breaks my heart. And it just makes me want to really like inspire women to just be able to stand up and feel, even if you don't feel comfortable in your body, feel proud of being a woman and being able to say, this is my experience, I'm allowed to have it, And I think this is why this question is like, it's so broad for me. Like, yes, there's this whole, like, I might get diabetes. I'm like, cool, let's work with a dietitian. Let's work with a nutritionist. Let's look at what you're doing. Let's look at the behaviors. It's not the weight, right? It's not the weight that's the problem. It's looking at understanding your habits that may change those things, right? And it's not just about food. Like, it's never just about food. It's about how the body is functioning, and we can look at that in lots and lots of different ways.
Yeah.
So, but then it gets into this like big ethical decision of like who's right and who's wrong when it comes to experiences of health. And no one knows your body better than you. Like, you have to trust that. And I guess a lot of people spend a lot of time not listening to their bodies. And
because that's what diet culture is often teaches us. And that's what, if somebody has had a disordered relationship with food, they don't have that connection with their body. They've lost that internal, that connection with their body signals. And so it's very hard to trust your body, and it can take time to rebuild that trust. And, that's something that can be done through exploring the intuitive eating approach and working with somebody in that kind of space. Of course, people are going to put their trust in their professionals and their medical professionals. So no wonder that it's so hard to advocate for yourself in those situations.
No, it's really hard. It's like it's very hard to do it. And I guess, it's when women's and men's bodies feel like they let them down, when you injure yourself, or when you get diagnosed with something, or something goes wrong, there's a sense of failure in your body anyway, right? Like, you feel like this, oh, well, why did my body let me down, and then come the layers of negativity and self-doubt and negative talking.
So vulnerable.
Exactly. And I guess, doctors, they don't sit and listen to the stories. They don't, it's not their fault. I think it's really important that we don't doctor blame here. But
I think it's a good point that you brought up too, because in the last conversations I've been having, and I've been getting a bit fired up thinking about these situations, and just I've always had a little bit of frustration that the medical model just don't understand they just don't seem to be aware of the impact of somebody's relationship with food and their background, going deeper into that kind of stuff. But now it's so great to hear you say that. It is a really good point to recognize that it is not part of their what they learn or their training, or they don't have the time to go that deep into something, and that's why we have professionals like you, of course. But it would be great if we started to see that shift a little bit, that the medical model did start to learn and recognize the the value, that the harm of weight stigma and diet culture and that, and sort of bring that into effect a little bit. But I think it's really important, because the fact that you've mentioned that is something that I didn't sort of take into account before. So sorry, doctors, for being so like.
No, I mean, look, it's you can, when you don't get the service that you need in any world, in a restaurant or a doctor's clinic, you're going to feel a bit peed off about that.
Yeah.
And particularly when you have expectations. And I think a GP's role it should be like a cheerleader of you, sending you to all the right people that you need to see to help you with your health.
Lovely way to look at it. Cheerleader.
They should be. That is what they should be. They should be like, okay, so this is what's going on. You need to see this person. You need to see a physio. You need to see a psychologist. You need to see a dietitian or a nutritionist. You need to see someone who's going to help you with this. And I'm going to organize that for you, because I have a trusted network of referrals that's what I do, right? But quite often they don't do it. They just, for some reason, they don't do it. And then there's sometimes they're sending them to people that they don't know or trust, you know, like,
Relationship with, yeah.
and that's a really great example. Like when I'm sending my clients to the GP to get a mental health plan, to speak to a psychologist, I'm like, okay, let's find you one first. And then like you go to the doctor and say, hey, I found this person, I'd really like to speak to them, and I feel like I'm eligible for the mental health plan. Can you help me? Otherwise, you know, I've seen people with, you know, eating disorder go to the doctor, get referred to a psychologist who's specializing in like, you know, panic therapy, and it's like, well, couldn't you have like referred me to someone that would be more suitable? So it comes back to that advocacy of yourself and really understanding what you feel like you need. But then the problem comes with education, like what is it that you need? Like what is it that you need right now? And you really have to trust someone to do that. So
yeah, because how does a person in the situation know exactly what they need? They're going to the professionals for that that support and that advice. So and that's why we're so lucky to have this network, you know, like working with people like you and the other guys that I've been doing these chats with. You know, that's really important to me. That's always been important to Haven, like aligning with people who I do feel wholeheartedly that I can refer clients out to, and know that the message and the intention behind it and the, you know, the authenticity behind it is really solid.
Yeah.
So
yeah. You can't do everything. And I think that GPs know that, but they also don't realize that sometimes. They feel like that person, because obviously when someone, like, you know, when a friend or someone comes and asks you for help, you're like, well, I should be able to help this person, right? And they probably do come from a generally good place, but they don't understand that maybe they don't have all the cards in their hand to do that, and they need to find other people to help them. And that's why that team mentality for healthcare is so important, you know, like you can't, feeling like you need to do it on your own is hard enough, and feeling like there's just one person that's not doing a very good job to help you is even worse. And having a team, you know, we feel safe when we have a community and a team, and I think that's has better health outcomes than telling someone to just go away and lose weight. So
yeah, totally. I mean, having the support of a network of people around you who you trust and who you wholeheartedly feel like you're getting you know, so good authentic advice from.
Yeah. And so I guess, you know, like, just I've been trying to work out how to summarize all this, because for me it really gets like deep into my philosophy of health and how I like to help and understand people, because it's a really eye-opening question. And I think one, understanding that mental health is no different from physical health, you know, and it's okay to support your physical health and mental health through change. In fact, it's really necessary. So there are professionals that will help this woman to be able to support her. And if she's unhappy with her GP, then she needs to go and find someone else, because you're allowed to say, no, I don't like this, or ask for what you want as well, or ask for more information. You know, like, can you tell me what you mean by that? Like, why is my weight the only deciding factor in me developing this? Like, why is there no other way around? Because there's always another way around. Always.
Yeah, questioning that that what's the word? You know, the absoluteness of you. The only way that you can, the only preventative treatment is to lose weight. Questioning that can be really interesting. And the question that came up for us was, what would somebody in a smaller body do? What treatment would they be given if they had this condition? And can't we pursue that? You know, can we look at that?
I know. I mean, it's, as I said, you know, you see people with chronic conditions in all body shapes and sizes. It is not something that is only people in larger bodies have certain conditions, because you see it in lots of things. And you're going into genetics, you're going deep into all sorts of things that it's like a lot of it is out of the control of that person sitting in that doctor's clinic, you know, and I think that's why investigation is good. So I guess the best thing that this woman can do, and I encourage all my patients to do when they go and see a specialist, is before they go into the doctor, write a list of questions and be like, this, and this, because I've been to doctors and specialists and being bamboozled, and I'm actually pretty good at talking to doctors because I can kind of speak their language sometimes, but sometimes I get bamboozled too. But write them all down, and then you can just go through it and go, actually, you know what, I just got a few more things that I want to ask you before you kick me out the door right now, and can you explain this? And if it's something that, if you feel really emotional about it, if it's something that you feel really worried about, and when we're emotional, sometimes our active listening is not as good as we wanted to, bring a friend, bring a family member, bring someone who's slightly impartial to just sit there and listen. So then when you walk out of there, you've got two sets of ears that have been able to help you with that as well. And I
can see it from a different perspective sometimes too. Yeah.
Because we always, you know, like if you're feeling like you're getting bad news from the doctor, right, you come at it with this idea of like, you're not listening, you know, like rabbit in the headlights stuff.
Just a preconceived idea of what's going on. Health at every size is about giving information and about, like, you know, letting people know there is this different way to approach health that doesn't focus on purely on weight.
Yeah.
And it puts it back in the client's hands, you know, and it's still centered around your body, your rules. You choose, just to be helping make sure that they have all the information available to them. Yeah.
I mean, health is complicated, right? You shouldn't have to do it on your own. You do need people to help decode it and simplify it and make it easy for you. My job, I say this to myself all the time, my job is to make your life easier, not more complicated, right? Like not more difficult. Like it's already, obviously if you're unwell, it's already hard enough. So how can I make it more simple? And I think that, you know, all doctors should be thinking about that when they're talking to their patients.
I think there's so much value from that, honestly, like talking about the advocacy and just recognizing how multifaceted health is, and helping this member recognize how tricky it can be to advocate for yourself, and how things can be really complicated, and to get help, you know, get support and find the right support. I think this is really valuable.
I'm glad I can help with my brain dump on that topic. So thank you for asking me.
Awesome to chat. Thank you so much. And where's the best place for people to reach out to you if they want to catch up?
You can find me on the internet, which is new-leaf.com.au.
Cool. I will share all of that, and I'll dig out a few resources that support our conversation today. But thank you again so much.
Thank you.
We look forward to catching up again soon.
Thanks, Anna.
Thanks, Hannah.
Bye.